Good day everybody, this is Pillar from Tusk Productions and welcome back to Star Trek Online. This is a free-to-play account playing through the story of a 23rd century Starfleet officer, and we've completed the future-proof storyline. So in today's episode we're going to be doing a quick review. It's going to be a very quick episode. Again, I apologise for this every time, but I won't anymore. No. We are going to be doing a review, so it will be probably around 10 minutes, 10 to 15 I think is the normal sort of time frame. I don't know why I'm looking at New Frontiers, we haven't started yet. We're on future-proof. So I've just completed this now, and the same layout will apply to this as for the other reviews. So I'm going to start off talking about the storyline, then we're going to move on to the difficulty, seems to have become the second thing I keep talking about. Then we'll be talking about mechanics, anything new that happened that I haven't seen before, and then we're moving on to possibly polish and how the game sort of felt to play, and I think that'll be about it. Awesome. And then at the end of this episode, I'm not going to be doing any housekeeping or upkeep stuff. I've actually already done it, so I'll just be showing you a few changes to my character and how we're going to be getting on to the next storyline, which will be New Frontiers. Cool. So, storyline then. I have had a quick chat with a few of the followers and viewers in Twitch to discuss how they think the storyline went. There's a few things that I really, really want to bring up, and I think I've talked about most of them already. But I think I have to drill them home. So let's start off from the beginning of Future Proof. So I've had a quick chat with somebody today about how Sunrise, the very first mission, feels a very Federation type mission where you're discovering a new species and it's like a first contact episode, possibly bringing in a little bit of exploration to it as well. Really cool, really, really fun. And I like how that felt. It kind of drew a few similarities to the old exploration style of Star Trek Online, but obviously they were terrible, the old exploration that you used to be able to do. This felt much, much better. And it made me think about how I felt Star Trek Online was going to be when we were in the beta and Cryptic were releasing sort of preview images and things like that, and they were saying that you'd be able to explore and see all these new places, you could find new planets, and it really felt like how I thought that was going to feel, if that makes sense. But of course that didn't feel like that at all when it actually came out, and it was these exploration clusters that you could go in and randomly a planet would appear, and it would be a very slightly different planet to the other 50 planets you've seen, and it was really annoying. Whereas this felt really good. Really liked it. A completely new race that you got to interact with properly as well. Obviously it had to be done as part of a storyline. It's very scripted, but really well done, I thought. And that was the very start. Then obviously we go on. Stormbound is a little bit frustrating in the way that I felt like I sympathised with the Narcool quite a bit. So obviously the Narcool star gets destroyed as such, not destroyed, but interfered with, it says here, probably a good way of saying it, by the Tholians using the Toxitat. And I truly side with the Narcool on this, where they're saying like that was done because of a temporal event. So you guys, you Federation, you Alliance types, go back and fix all the things that hurt you, but when it hurts somebody else you don't go back and fix it. Surely we should be fixing that. We should have saved the Narcool star. Then the Narcool wouldn't have become an issue, and a lot of the problems that were caused might not have happened. So I don't see why we weren't doing that, but fair enough, I guess. Fair enough. Okay, and then we get into a few things where we're sort of meeting the Alliance and the Temporal Order and stuff, and they were really cool getting to see how all that happened. The Temporal Accords signing at New Kittimer. You get to go back there a couple of times. Really, really cool. And at some point around here as well, the big reveal that Noi is an enemy to start with. Yeah, I think he goes to New Kittimer. That's the first time you go there. He's one of the people attacking it. And then it turns out he's the envoy. He's the big bad of the entire temporal Cold War is Noi. And I know I've said this 100 times, so I'm really sorry if you're getting annoyed or bored of it, but let's lay out what Noi is actually angry about, okay? So, if Noi had a wife and a child on the way, and I had made mistakes or done something that meant that wife and child had died, then completely understandable. He should be out for my blood, and all of this could be a perfectly normal way to go. maybe not normal, but you know, that is exactly what should happen. But that isn't how it went. I had obviously made mistakes, or we made mistakes and made choices that meant Noi's wife and child didn't come along anymore. They were no longer in existence. But he can't be annoyed at that because he never met them. Like, if I read a book that somebody wrote about me and it was an imaginary me, not imaginary, a hypothetical me, and I had all these amazing things, then I couldn't then hate that person for taking them away from me. If I never experienced them, I can't miss them. Now, I did actually have a discussion with, I think this was Amaze Satsuma on YouTube, and he mentioned that, and this is probably the best explanation I've seen, but he mentioned that I'm thinking of it from a very human point of view. And Thyson's actually just mentioning it right now, but I'm thinking of it from a very human point of view, and it's possible that Krenim people, like Noi is a Krenim, obviously, a member of the Krenim Imperium, it's possible that they feel differently and think differently, and therefore can have that level of emotion for it's something that never existed and that they've never met. So, that was Thyson back then. Sorry, it was Thyson. So, I would just like to say that from when you're watching Star Trek, playing through Star Trek Online, the reason that all of the races are so similar is because they have to be written and played and portrayed in a way that is relatable by us. So I think that should apply to the Krenim too. There's no way we can relate to and understand that story as to how Noi could be upset. I'm not sure if you guys understand why he's upset, and maybe it's just me. But maybe I'm a bit weird about it. I don't know. That whole story where Noi is the main bad guy because of what happened to a wife and daughter, or wife and child, that he's never met or interacted with, never known. He could not be annoyed at it. So that's my feeling about that. I do not get that at all. But other than that one very big storyline point, but a very minor quirk to it, I think the storyline was actually incredible. So getting to see all of the temporal accords and temporal sort of playthrough is really good. Really, really good. And Ragnarok as well, getting to wrap up the Procyon 5 sort of battle and actually take part in it. That's just incredible. That is so much fun. Which brings me on to, I think that's all the storyline points I wanted to make. I think that's everything. And that will do, I would say. So yeah, let's get on to difficulty. Now, I said in the last review, the Iconian War, that I feel like my tier 6 ship, with all of the new traits that my bridge officers have all got and all this new stuff, is making everything feel a little bit trivial. Everything's really easy. That has applied to Future Proof as well. Everything has felt very easy, especially in space anyway, in space combat. Ground combat, the boss fights have been of a certain level of difficulty, much more, not much more difficult than before. But that comes onto the mechanics that we'll get onto in a second. But the difficulty for ground, I'd say, is right. Probably, if anything, not too difficult. No, maybe a little bit easy. I mean, I died a couple of times, but in the heavily mechanical fights. I think the difficulty is about right for ground. But for space, anybody that's playing through Star Trek Online and they get to Future Proof will have gone through all the other things. So the Delta Quadrant, Iconian War, all that kind of stuff. And at points through that, you get these bridge officers that give you, that have space traits and make you much more powerful in space. So the difficulty for space is a little bit weak. Difficulty on ground is about right. Which unfortunately means changing the difficulty that you play on is quite difficult, because then you'll be increasing both. I think that's how it works. So, I would say space is probably a little bit easy still. And I'm not sure how they would fix that, but obviously that's for a balance guy to look into. Now, mechanics-wise, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So the Nakul specifically had two mechanics that you had to sort of think about. The sort of cone frontal attack that did a lot of damage, and they also have a tractor beam that never seemed to coincide, which made it a little bit easy. But at least you had to keep that in mind, that they can tractor beam you and they can cone attack at the same time, which could kill you. And they also had the distortions that you had to kill off before. You actually had to think about what you were attacking, which was really, really good, and really good to see. And then in the ground combat, they had the exact same thing, which, again, you had to think about. You had to take into account as you were approaching the fights. Really good mechanically. And that's exactly what I think I brought up in the Iconian War, that I don't want them to just keep raising the difficulty by increasing the damage, basically. You're not increasing the difficulty, you're increasing the chance of getting one shot, which isn't difficult, that's just annoying. So I love the way that the way you increase difficulty is through mechanical adaptiveness, I guess, making difficult mechanics that you would then have to adapt to on the fly. Much, much better. And they seem to have done that with Future Proof, so I like it. Like it a lot, a hell of a lot. Which is the third point to have covered, and then we're on to the last one, so polish. Now, I feel like I've become more accepting of bugs that come up. I tend to laugh them off a lot now, whereas before I might have noticed them and brought them up, made a bit more of a big deal about them. So maybe I'm just getting used to them, which is pretty bad, actually. When you think about that, that's quite a bad thing. But maybe it's just that I'm not noticing the polish, or I'm laughing it off a little bit, and that's why it's probably not annoying me so much. But there were a couple of bugs in this, definitely, but interesting ones, like when Daniels reappeared in the last mission. Again, which I don't understand, but I'll come back to the storyline again in a bit, actually. There's a couple more things to talk about. But yeah, the polish-wise, there were a couple of bugs still. And I think me becoming more accepting of it is a really bad sign, actually. It shows that there's just been too many bugs throughout this whole thing. But hey, that's the polish-wise. I actually think there weren't that many bugs, only a couple throughout the whole thing. So polish-wise, actually pretty good. Okay, now a couple of points about the storyline that I missed. So the whole temporal play around, so the time travel aspect to the storyline, there being time travel involved means you can play around with the storyline a lot more. You can just make stuff up, basically, and throw it in and blame it on time travel. It does open up that door, and the viewers sort of have to accept that to a degree. But there are certain rules that still just apply. They just apply, and you can't get around them. So Daniels being alive at the very end breaks one of those rules, I think. It was Noi that killed Daniels, and no matter at what point he killed Daniels, that was where they were in the timeline, right? Oh, this is going to be really difficult to explain. I've just trying to thought it through in my head. But so Noi then goes forward, even though he actually goes back in time. Oh no, he then goes forward in time to the Procyon 5 battle. But that's the same Noi. So I then kill him after he's already killed Daniels. There's no way that should bring Daniels back to life, I think. So I think that pretty much breaks the sort of established time travel rules. And even though there is always that degree of, well, it was time travel, so obviously no one knows, because obviously it's completely thought of as being impossible, but, you know, if you can do it, then there can't be imaginary rules applied to it. So kind of get that, but still it broke the basic rules that I think still apply. And I think that's all I've got to say about storyline. Cool. So that's it. That is the review for Future Proof. It doesn't take over the Iconian War as my favourite storyline. It doesn't, unfortunately. It is really, really good. Ties up a few storylines from Enterprise, obviously, that I think really needed tying up. And I really, really wish Enterprise had made it to the standard 7 series that the others seem to be. And I feel like it's a massive shame that it didn't. In fact, I would love for them to go back and redo that. But so the sphere builders, for instance. Oh, actually, wow, this has brought up another point. So the sphere builders said that we caused some sort of pain to them, and that's why they were retaliating and had joined the Envoy side. At no point through this did it elaborate on that. I don't think, anyway, unless I missed it. So what have we done to annoy the sphere builders to make them join the Envoy? Has he just made something up? I don't know. I thought it was going to clear that up, but obviously it didn't. So that is the end of the review for Future Proof. Generally, very good. Really thoroughly enjoyed it, but doesn't take over my favourite spot, unfortunately. Okay, the last thing I want to do is just quickly show you a couple of changes that I've made to the skills. Now again, this has been done through the wonderful community on Twitch, so thank you very much, guys, for helping out. But I've changed a few things. I've made Euromod a temporal operative specialization. So I can show you that on here, skills. Again, temporal operative, he's got that in his repertoire now. So I can go on here and show you that he's going to have channel deconstruction and entropic redistribution as his first two abilities with emergency power to weapons 3. So that is a big change. All three of those have changed. I've moved emergency power to weapons up from the second slot to the third to make it more powerful and put 2 temporal operative abilities in there that I'm hoping to have some fun with. I've also played around with these a little bit because I wanted to keep emergency power to engines because that resets my evasive maneuvers. So I've kept that and moved up the engineering team and reverse shield polarity. I've moved them up 1 each basically. I've also kept aceton beam. Now this is something that is a little bit controversial, and I probably will replace that with something else in the future, but I do like it. It's good. And I've also replaced Energy Siphon with Tychon's Rift. I actually really like Energy Siphon, but I'm going to try out Tychon's Rift for a bit and see how that goes. See how it goes. So, other than that, I have also got Euromod just put all of his temporal operative abilities on ground just so I can see what they do, basically. I want to just have some fun with that, and I don't really need any of the abilities that he had. So it was Turret Fabrication. No, it wasn't. It was Fronton Mine Barrier, which I already have on Talin anyway. Hurricane Turret, which was completely useless and I wanted to get rid of. Turret Fabrication, which I do. And then Support Drone, which I do as well. All fine. Got rid of it all and replaced it with all of the temporal operative abilities. There you go. And that is me. So that is the end of Future Proof. In the next episode, we'll be starting New Frontiers, the final storyline in the current build of Star Trek Online. Until Age of Discovery comes out, obviously. But New Frontiers is here to go. And we'll be there in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Please let me know what you thought of my review. That's a double the same NPC again. We see that a lot. And she just pushed me. How rude. But yeah, please let me know how you got through the future-proof storyline and what you think about it. What you think of my points as well. How do you feel about Noi? Come on, let's get into a big discussion about Noi. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, hope you are enjoying, and hope you will enjoy. But by far, the most important thing is to look forward to the next episode of Star Trek Online.